Are you looking at Story of the World as a way to teach history to your homeschool children? Today, I'm going to share all about how we implement Story of the World to our family of elementary and middle school students. Hi, I'm Aileen, and this is Homeschool with the Clarks. I am currently homeschooling kids ages 12, 10, 8, and 4. Today, I want to share with you how we use Story of the World. This is a Story of the World Volume 2, The Middle Ages. This is the reader. This is like your main spine that you use, but it also has a few other elements, an activity book. There's an optional audiobook. There's tons and tons of book lists in here, hands-on activities, map work, copywork, narration, so many things. Too many things really to do all of them and finish it in a year. So I'm going to share how I actually implement this with my family and what we use and what we don't use. So we do have the reader. However, I'm not really using the reader. We are listening to the story, but we're using the audiobook version. They have two different options for the audiobook. You can purchase the MP3 files or get it on discs. I chose to purchase the MP3 files because, well, first of all, I don't have a CD player. But I did invest in a Yoto player this year, which is this contraption. It's just like it's kind of like a Bluetooth speaker. You can use it as a Bluetooth speaker, but it has cards that go in the top that can play music and audiobooks to your kids. It's kind of like a screen-free way to listen to stories. And I just wanted to have another option to invite my children to enjoy audiobooks and music and things like that. And so I have my Yoto player. Now, they don't sell a Story of the World Yoto card. However, they do sell these make your own Yoto cards. And so what I did is I uploaded the MP3 onto this, and then I did actually kind of messily print out the cover. It matches, kind of. Not quite the same blue, and put it on sticker paper. But a lot of my make your own Yoto cards are like tape and it's written on, or I'll use like my label maker. It doesn't have to have a sticker. Some people make like these beautiful stickers for their make your own cards. Either way, it plays on here. Okay. And it saves our spot. And so we use this with our Yoto card more than we use this. Occasionally, I will have one of my kids follow along in this. If they're having trouble, like staying on task that day, I might say, hey, why don't you follow along in the reader? And that will help them focus if they're having a distracted day, which we all do, right? So that is how we utilize the book portion. This hunk of book is the activity book. And there is so much in here. If you're going to use Story of the World, I would not skip this. They also have a test book, which we don't have and we don't use. If you like doing that as well, you totally could. But I feel like I wouldn't recommend skipping the activity book because there is so much in here. So I'm just going to show you the France and England War. Okay. And so it's all just written to the parent. It's not written to the student. It's not worksheets. But it starts out with extra reading from like an Usborne type history encyclopedia. There's several different options. We use the Usborne internet linked encyclopedia, and that one is on there. And then it has it broken down into sections because there tends to be between 2 and 4 sections in each chapter. And so it'll tell you the name of the section. It'll have some comprehension questions. And then after, it has a narration exercise, which is copywork that you could utilize. And then it'll go on to the next section. So that one's Joan of Arc and the same thing. Okay. After it does the sections, it shows you additional history reading. This is more like nonfiction reading options. I believe it goes on to the next page too. It goes on to the next page. Like this is like a feast for you, but you definitely can't get to all of it. And then after is more like picture books and novels, more fictionalized book options. Underneath there is directions for their map work, and the maps are included in the back. So they're black and white, but it's got really good instructions on using the map. So it'll have the map work. And it'll be like different colors, like find this on the map and circle it in blue, and then color this in red. And it's just kind of orienting the student on the location, but it is a very like polarized map. It's not like showing the whole world. It's just that those couple countries, whatever you're covering. After that, there are all of the projects, lots and lots of project opportunities. Joan of Arc paper dolls, a sandpaper print battle flag, bowl for the crown, which is a game. And then there's another activity project, the coronation of Charles VII, find the Dauphin, and then that's the end. So there's like 4 or 5 project opportunities, 2 different copywork options for each section of the chapter. And like I said, there's like 2 to 4 sections in each chapter, and comprehension questions, additional reading, so much. There's so much in this book. So you want this book. Those are the pieces that come with Story of the World. Now I'm going to walk through how we actually use it as a family, because we do not do everything in the activity book. So there's 42 chapters in the book. You could do it over like a year and a half, or you could do it in a year. Our plan is to finish it in a year. We are currently in February, so we're like over halfway done with the year, and I'm on chapter 26 with my kids, and we will finish by the end of the year. We did break from our traditional history a couple of times in the first semester. We did a Thanksgiving unit study, and we did an election unit study, and we did Christmas school. So we didn't hit Story of the World quite as much in the first semester. So the second semester, in order to finish by May, like in May, we will be alternating. The goal is 2 chapters of history and 2 science lessons every week, but I feel like that does not happen consistently in our homeschool because we have lots of other things going on, sports, clubs, co-op type stuff. So it usually ends up being 1 week we do 2 chapters of history and 1 lesson of science, and then the next week we do 2 lessons of science and 1 chapter of history. And with that, we will finish by the end of the year. So I think it's definitely doable to finish it in a year doing 2 chapters a week, just knowing that you're going to look at the activity book as like a feast of options and not, I have to do all of these things. And that is really hard for me. I've talked about that quite a bit on this channel, about needing something that's like very open and go and scripted. And this is scripted, and but it has a lot more options than I normally like. Like there's other curriculums I have stopped using because there were too many options. But I was able to just really dial in on how we are going to use it, and the things that we're going to utilize and the things that we're not going to utilize. This is what we do. Everyone comes to the table, usually with something to do, drawing, a fidget. Sometimes I'll print out the coloring pages because there is a coloring page included in the activity book for every chapter. And I do also want to mention that they have a PDF option of student pages. And so I don't make copies out of the student book. I have the PDF, which it wasn't very much. I want to say it was like $9.95. And then I just find the map work and the coloring pages and anything else I'm going to use and just print it out that day from my phone while we're listening to the chapter, generally speaking. And if someone wants a coloring page, I print them out a coloring page. Usually that's just my 4-year-old who may or may not be listening to the chapter. I don't require her to participate. She wants to be included, but she's 4. So she homeschools, but it's really like she plays all day and we read some books and maybe we do a craft. But for my 3 older kids, they can have a fidget or draw as long as they're paying attention while we're listening. And it will say chapter 26. And then it'll say like the War of France and England, which is like the title of the section. And so we'll listen to the section and then we will pause it, which I just like pull the card out and stick it on top of the Yoto. We will pause it. And then depending on the day, we were doing just straight narration where I would just have the kids tell back what they remembered. And it was like either someone would volunteer to do that or I would call on someone and then I'd say, okay, what do you want to add to that to the other kids? Lately, though, we have been using the comprehension questions and that's been working for us as well. And so I'll just read through the comprehension questions and whoever has the answer can share the answer. Occasionally they don't have the answer and I will read it because it also has the answer in there, which I appreciate because sometimes I get up and go and help someone go potty or do something else for a few minutes and then come back. And so it's good to have the answers right there. So we'll go through the comprehension questions and then we will play the next section. We don't break it up into days. We do the whole chapter in a day. We just pause in between sections. So then we'll play the next section and then we'll repeat the process and we'll say, okay, tell me what you heard, or we'll do the comprehension questions. After that, I 80% of the time have my kids do a written narration of what they heard. They can choose which section they want to write about. It's usually the last section that we listen to, and that's fine. We have these notebooks from School Nest. I really, really love her notebook. She sells them on Amazon. She's also has a storefront now. She's going to be like selling some other stuff that you can buy directly from her soon. I don't think it's out yet. But these are just really nice notebooks. So I get a new one for my kids every year, and they have a rainbow of color options. So they get to pick the color. And so, I put a bookmark in. Okay. So this is my 5th grader's work. Her writing has just exploded. So she'll like fill a page now, but I just have them write. Sometimes I'll say, okay, 7th graders write 7 sentences. The 5th graders write 5 sentences. But a lot of times I'll just be like, okay, right, I'm going to give you 15 minutes. You just write what you remember. So they put that directly into their notebook. For my 2nd grader, I give her the option to choose between copywork and narration. A lot of the time she does want to narrate, but it's not a realistic expectation to expect a 2nd grader to be able to just freely write like that every time, at least in my opinion. And so I do offer her copywork, but I do want her to be like writing something down. So I'll just open the activity book if it's only her doing copywork, and she'll just pick a section of the copywork that they have and she'll copywork. Now I said 85% of the time I have my kids do the narration. The other part of the time, I will do copywork for everyone. There's like free online copywork generators on the internet. And so I'll type up the copywork, usually while we're listening to the chapter, because I'm just flying by the seat of my pants. And I'll print it out in cursive for my 5th and 7th graders. And then they're getting that cursive practice and they're doing the copywork. So we do that sometimes. And I love that there's copywork already in here, so I don't have to go and pick a passage. It's like in there. It's great. The next thing we do is the map work. So I'll usually try and get them to put the map this way, glue it right next to their narration, but I give them the instructions and then they just fill it out. Whew. So you can see they had to outline some stuff in yellow. They had to color something in. I think this was supposed to be a different color, but she colored it in gray. You circle and underline the names of countries or capitals sometimes. It's just a way to get themselves familiar. In addition to the map work, with every chapter, we have a world map on our wall, and we have this little castle with like sticky stuff, and we move the castle. So they take turns getting to move the castle from whatever location we're talking about. And if there's multiple locations, we'll have a quick discussion and say, okay, where should we move our castle? And then I invite everyone to the world map and I have everyone find the country and put their finger on it. And then whoever gets to move the castle that day will put the castle there, just to kind of give them more of like a big picture overview of where this is located in the world, just because it is story of the world. And so they're jumping around a lot, which I appreciate. Next thing we do, and this technically did not come from Story of the World, but I was able to find it for free online. Like if you just Google, and I'll try and put the link below too of the one I use. But if you just search like Story of the World volume, whatever you're using, timeline photos or timeline photo PDF free, something like that. There's a few that are there. But I shrunk them down and printed them on sticker paper, and we use everyone has a timeline notebook, and this is not something I buy new every year. We've been using this for 3 years now. So everyone has their own. Let's see if I can find some. Okay. So here we go. Here is the Middle Ages, and it's usually just one sticker per chapter, which I like. Last year we did ancient history, but not with Story of the World. We used Curiosity Chronicles, and they have a timeline sticker thing that you can buy on a PDF and print on sticker paper. But it was like 5 or 6 that we were adding to the timeline every time. And it was just too much. My kids were like, who is this person? What is that? It was just too much to like, I don't know. I appreciate that it's just like one, like just Joan of Arc. We're just going to put Joan of Arc on the timeline. That's easier for us to manage. So they'll do the timeline here. And then next to our world map, we also have a larger timeline that I printed out and just like put along the wall. And then I printed out like this size of the same timeline. And so one kid will move the castle and one kid will glue the timeline on the big timeline. Just because with the timeline book, it's like different years per page. And so I liked that it was like the whole timeline from start to finish, just for the Middle Ages, across my wall. I don't know if any of it's sticking. I don't know if they're looking at, I mean, I think some of it's sticking. I don't know if they're going back and looking at the timeline and looking at the world map during the day. I don't think they are, but those are extra things that were important to me that we added in this year. And it takes like 2 minutes. Like it's not, this might seem like a lot, but really start to finish, we probably spend 45 minutes to an hour on a history chapter. So I think that that is doable. So we read the chapter, we do the discussion questions, we do narration or copy work, we do our map work, we do our timeline. Then we're usually done. However, there is another piece that I am working into our homeschool throughout the week, whether it's a history day or not, and that is read alouds. So I showed you this huge list of books that they have to, book options that they have to offer. Like once a month, I will go through like the next 6 chapters and look on my library and just see what's available and put those books on hold. I do not get to all of the books. I put them on hold with the best of intentions. And if I can read 1 or 2 picture books that are related to our history through the week, I call that a win. So it's oftentimes I'll put them on hold, but I haven't seen the books. I haven't read the books. I like to be able to look through them and see them. And sometimes if they're a really long, wordy picture book, I will find it on YouTube. If it's one that I want them to listen to, just because I'm doing read alouds as well and I have to save my voice. I only have so much voice that I can do reading and reading and reading before my voice gets tired. And so sometimes I will do a YouTube read aloud. I also put together a list of novels at the beginning of the year that I wanted to try and read throughout the year. And so we are slowly doing that as well. We're doing like a history read aloud and we have like another read aloud going. Like right now we're reading The Bark of the Bog Owl as our just regular fiction for fun with Read Aloud Revival. By the way, if you have heard of her, we're doing her premium right now and they're reading Bark of the Bog Owl. So that's what we're doing. We're reading Bark of the Bog Owl. And then for history, we're reading a book called A Single Shard, which is medieval history but it's historical fiction that takes place in Korea. So we have our historical fiction novel that we'll read together as a family. I am also assigning novels to my 5th and 7th graders this year, and I did include some historical fiction that was relevant. My 5th grader just finished reading The Midwife's Apprentice, which is about a girl who becomes a midwife's apprentice during the Middle Ages. There's a cat on the cover and she loves cats, so that's why we picked that one. But she actually really liked it. Like she stayed up late one night and just finished reading it. And I was just having her read it slowly, 1 chapter a day kind of thing. And then my 7th grader is currently reading A Samurai's Tale. So that is how we use Story of the World in our homeschool. It's going really well for us this year. I'm enjoying the curriculum. It's a great family style curriculum that I'm able to also utilize with my middle schooler, which I appreciate. And we do plan on using volume 3 next year.